All right. Ooh, sorry. A little
No, you're
loud.
good.
Little loud. Little loud from the get-go.
That is just fine.
All
How
right.
am I coming through?
You're coming through
All
fine.
right.
I can hear you just fine.
Sweet.
I know how to run a board. I don't know how to run the stream. All right. Test, test, test. 1, 2. I'm a little hot. Test, test, test. 1, 2. 1, 2. Coach, can you hear us okay?
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Test, test, test. Testing, testing, testing. Hearing you great. All right, awesome.
Yeehaw.
And I've already closed the stream, so we're not going to get a feedback loop today. That's a lesson that's a mistake you make once, and then you never make it again.
Hopefully.
So, all right, we will go. I will text you, Coach, when we are ready to go. And the opener is 40 seconds, right? Just a reminder so I can set the timer for 40 seconds once I say go, right?
I think that's what it was last week.
Here, I'll even text you just to make sure it's a lot easier than just talking.
This is the worst walkie-talkie
Okay,
thing
yes.
ever.
It is the worst walkie-talkie ever. I know, it is what it is, though. All right, so, yeah, I will go right at 9:30, and then I will start the timer. Go ahead and text me go once you've started it, so I just know.
A little before.
A little before,
'Cause
even.
I think there's about a 6-second delay.
Yeah,
6 or 7.
even a little bit before it, just so I can come in at the right time. The opener is probably the hardest part, but we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Ooh, that was a good play.
Anyway, turn us
Number
down.
10.
I'll let you know when we're ready. All right, we are ready to go.
Here we go.
The Waynesville Tigers versus your
Done.
And a very good evening to you and yours. We are here at JFK Stadium in Springfield, Missouri, Parkview High School for tonight's high school football matchup. Again, as the Waynesville Tigers take to the road for the first time this season, looking to get that first win here as well. Connor Harbert again on the play-by-play right here on 102.3 KOZQ. And joining alongside me is my partner again for the whole entire season, Garrett Bowles. And Garrett, as we kind of intro things here today, and of course our pregame, going to be a little bit different than what we tried to do last week. But when you look at last week, there were a lot of positives for the Waynesville Tigers to build off of. Unfortunately, fell a little bit short against Glendale, 48-32, the final score there. But you looked impressive even in defeat, and you're going to look to kind of continue some of the things you did last week into today's admittedly very winnable matchup.
Absolutely. You know, Coach Barkley, if he came in here hoping for an undefeated season, that's unrealistic by any standard for any team. But to see what the Waynesville Tigers put on display there, both on defense and on offense against a team that is very good offensively and has done a lot to improve defensively over the last couple of seasons in the Glendale Falcons, it was really impressive. And I think we're going to see how they build on that tonight against a pretty good Parkview team, even though the past 26 games haven't really shown that so far.
Yeah, and of course, one of the main storylines in this game, Parkview, tonight's opponent, they are on quite a long losing streak, does go back a couple of seasons, 26 games. But as you and I even kind of alluded to in the postgame of last week, you have to come in here today and really just ignore that, because you can't go into any game, no matter the record, thinking that you're just going to straight up win the football game just by showing up. Obviously, confidence is good. You don't want to come into this one overconfident.
Absolutely, which is we see it so often, whether it's the Pop Warner, the flag football, or all the way up to the NFL. We have teams that seemingly come into the game overconfident and end up getting a rude awakening very, very quickly. I think this is going to be Waynesville's chance to prove themselves that they belong in the top tier, as we should say, of the Ozark Conference. But nonetheless, this is going to be a game of focusing on the little things, focusing on every block, every catch, every run, and then hoping a win comes out of it against a very good Parkview Vikings team.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will go ahead and send it on to our first break of the day. Like I said, something a little bit different for you. Our very own Marv Luton. He got an opportunity to talk with Waynesville head coach Kyle Barkley a little bit earlier today. We'll have that interview for you after 1 minute. After a 1 minute timeout. Again, I am Connor Harbert, joined by Garrett Bowles. You're listening to Waynesville Tiger Football right here on KOZQ 102.3. And once again, welcome back here to JFK Stadium here in Springfield, the site of Parkview High School. The field just across from the school here, still about 21 minutes away from opening kickoff in tonight's high school football matchup. Again, it is going to be the Waynesville Tigers taking on the Parkview Vikings. Connor Harbin here on the play-by-play, and of course joined by Garrett Bowles. Of course, you just heard our very own Marv Luton talking with head coach Kyle Barkley. And a couple of things to note here in this one, injuries. There were several very big injuries in that Week 1 defeat to Glendale. Some of the players who we're not going to see tonight, that includes, of course, Evan Bradford. He is not dressed out tonight. You also do not have Ta Ossie. He is not available here today. He was kind of making himself known as a running back. You're also not going to have Dalen Registe as well. He is not dressed out here tonight. And of course, Mason Wright, who was injured late in that game against Glendale, he is also out. So you have quite a few key players on both sides of the ball who are not going to be available to the Tigers here tonight.
Absolutely. Most of them on the offensive side. The loss of a couple of those guys is going to be very, very tough, but I don't think it's going to spell disaster for the Waynesville offense or defense. This team came into the season very, very deep at pretty much every position. I think we're going to see the cliche, traditional next man up mentality take form here tonight.
Yeah, and you even kind of saw that last week as well. We saw a couple different players play in some different positions. Chase Thomas Plummer, of course, was a notable one there. We saw Michael Kelsey Jr. He came in late into that ball game and had a couple good runs as well. And of course, you even heard Coach Barkley say, Bishop Godwin, normally a quarterback, he might be taking some plays here at running back. So you've got quite a few athletes who can step back there. And Coach Barkley, he's very, very proud of the fact that players can play multiple positions in this offense.
Absolutely. That was something that I think one of the first times I ever spoke with him or even heard an interview with Coach Barkley, one of the very first things he said was he wants the team to be explosive. Every coach wants that, of course, but he also said he wanted players to be versatile. We're going to see that tonight, of course, with the 4-2-6 defense, or 4-2-5 defense, I should say. That's where that versatility really shines. You want guys who can play corner, guys who can play safety, guys who can play outside linebacker. We're going to see that version on the offensive side of the football tonight, with several different players playing several different positions.
Yeah, and of course, we also have to talk about defense here as well. It's fun to talk about offense, especially with the Waynesville offense showing some explosiveness last week. But we really have to talk about the defense because you and I were talking about what it's like to play a team that's really on a losing streak, such as the one Parkview has embarked on. And I think it's so important to come out here early on and really set the tempo. Upsets happen in games that are 0-0 after one quarter, maybe 7-0 at the half. You don't want to let these Vikings believe that they can do it. If you come out and you set the tempo early, I think you take them out of this game.
Absolutely. The mental factor in a losing streak such as this is so important, and it's so interesting to dive into. Players obviously are going to play their hardest no matter what, but if you can take a little bit of that hope, a little bit of that edge out of them early, it's going to bode well for the entire team, and that is done most of the time on defense with physicality and discipline.
Yeah, you hit them in the mouth and you keep that 0 on the board for as long as possible. You really kind of make it seem like an uphill task while you let your offense do the work as well. You keep that Parkview defense on the field, or you keep them kind of cycling in and out. You really start to kind of get into a rhythm yourself. You kind of have the momentum. The ball's in your court, so to speak, to take a metaphor from a completely different sport. But hopefully Waynesville can turn this one out, and of course we've got quite a bit of more content for you here as we are still 18 minutes away from kickoff in this one. That includes a opposing coach's interview. Our very own Garrett Bowles, he had an opportunity to speak with Parkview head coach Ben Doherty a couple days ago, I do believe, in fact. So we'll have that interview for you. Again, we're going to take another 1-minute timeout. We'll have that interview for you. Again, you're listening to Waynesville Tigers football right here on KOZQ 102.3. And once again, welcome back here to JFK Stadium here in Springfield, Missouri, the home of the Parkview Vikings, again, as your Waynesville Tigers look to pick up their first victory here of the season. Connor Harbitt, Garrett Bowles back once again. Of course, you heard Garrett talking with Parkview head coach Ben Doherty heading on into this Week 2 matchup. And we'll get to the slate of games of couple of big games in the Ozark Conference here this week in just a moment. But again, we talk about this Parkview Vikings squad, and you even heard Coach Doherty talk about it. They've got some athletes, despite being a team that might be in a bit of a downswing once again. And it all starts with a man who's really going to be out in the flat a lot, and that's going to be Chris Anderson, the wide receiver.
Absolutely. He's a big kid. He's athletic. He can play running back. He can play quarterback if he needs to. He's also more than likely going to be returning the kicks for the Parkview Vikings tonight. If they do go to the air, which they might not do as often as they did in the past, but when they do, it's a very good chance it's going to go to that big number 11, Chris Anderson.
Yeah, 5'10", 160 pounds. He's athletic. He's going to give the Waynesville secondary a run for their money. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing tonight about Waynesville as well. How's the secondary kind of respond? At times they looked good against Glendale, and at times they really kind of maybe stepped back and made some mistakes, a few key penalties here and there that really gave the Falcons the yardage they needed in that one. But of course, they've also got some players in the running game, the Vikings do. Cam Harris, he's another player we've got to watch out for here tonight.
He is in this Parkview offense, so even though Coach Doherty didn't come right out and say it, he alluded to the fact that this offense is likely going to run right with Cam Harris. If he has a great game, this Parkview team is in it. They have a chance to win, but if Cam Harris can't put this team on his back, as Coach Doherty is expecting him to do, could spell trouble for the offense, the defense, and the whole darn team.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, one place where Waynesville and Parkview are really similar is the fact that they both have explosive players kind of heading up the offense at quarterback. We're going to see Vernon and Godwin, of course, for Waynesville. But Anthony Nunda, he's not the biggest guy on the field. In fact, the roster lists him as only 5'7", but he's fast, he's agile, and he's going to look to kind of weave around and maybe even throw a few passes as well. We definitely saw him throw some bombs during warm-ups here today.
Absolutely. I was very, very impressed with him in warm-ups. The notes that I have down for Mr. Nunda simply say athletic runner. That's what he's going to do a good portion of the time, and that's what really all I was expecting out of him. But whenever I got down to the field, saw him practicing, this kid can throw fairly well. I'm very, very excited to see how they mix that into the offense.
Yeah, throwing some 40-yard passes down the right sideline. If you remember last week, that's where Waynesville was hurt the most, those deep balls. They were really forced into diving at the player, not necessarily the ball, trying to catch up, and the flags came. So if they look to do that, it's going to be a tough test here for Waynesville. And of course, Nunda, an honorable mention, all-conference selection last year, but at wide receiver. Important to note, he is a returning all-conference selection as well. They've also got some players on the offensive line, some names you might hear tonight: Eric Anderson, Covey Heslin as well. And then you also have Devontae Trout and Jared Johnson. They're a couple of juniors as well. This Parkview squad, they've got experience. They're not a young team by any means. They've got some seniors, they've got some juniors, they've got leadership.
Leadership, and hungry leadership at that. We might allude to it a little bit too much, but I don't think you can overstate it. 26 games in a row, 26 losses. They are hungry, they are anxious, and they are excited to get this season going with a win after a tough loss in Lebanon last week.
Yeah, and of course defensively as well, a name to watch out for here tonight, and a name we definitely might say a lot, Ryan Decker. I say that because he is a stud. He actually set a team record last year for Parkview, 158 total tackles per year. Of course, 10 games per season for all these schools. You can do the math there. That's over 10 tackles a game and then some, in fact. That's actually about... do the math with me here, Garrett. That's about 12. It's a lot. It's 12 or 13 tackles per game, if you want to be precise with it. So that's going to be something to watch out for. How do the Waynesville running backs? How does Chase Thomas Plummer? How does Bishop Godwin, if we see him run the football here today? How does Michael Kelsey Jr.? How do they do against some of these more experienced Viking defenders who are going to look to kind of shut down that running game and maybe force Waynesville to the air?
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting as well to see Ryan Decker move position. Last year, he'd had all of those tackles, and he had all that great success at the outside linebacker and free safety position. This season, Doherty switching it up a little bit, giving him a little more of an emphasis, a little more of a team leadership role on that interior linebacker spot. He did not disguise it whatsoever. Doherty said, "This man is the captain of our defense. He is the team leader 110%. Where the defense goes is going to be led by Ryan Decker, the number 52 senior." Another player that I don't know if we've talked about too much, but I had it mentioned to me by the great Kevin Stubblefield from Lebanon. was the other inside linebacker, number 8, sophomore Ben Rice. I work with Kevin at another station. I said, Kevin, give me 1 or 2 star players that might be a little bit under the radar right now. He did not hesitate. He said Ben Rice, the other inside interior linebacker for the Vikings, is a threat to most quarterbacks and most running backs.
So our captains meeting at midfield here at the moment for our game opening coin toss. And of course, the coin toss brought to you by Security Banks. Toss your coins in Security Bank and watch your money grow. In fact, our official down there on the field flipping the coin will know soon enough who is going to be doing what. And it looks like Waynesville has won the toss, and it looks like they are going to defer. So as last week, Waynesville lost the toss. They had it deferred to. They elected to receive, of course. It looks like Waynesville might be kicking it away here this time. We might get to see that defense start things out, and that we will. So again, we're about to start here, but before we do get to that opening kickoff, did want to talk about some other games that are happening in the conference around the area as well. You've got a few very big matchups. I think the one I'm watching the most here tonight, West Plains and Glendale. That game being played at Glendale High School right here in Springfield. So, of course, the West Plains Zizzers, very good team last year. They opened up their season 1-0, looked very, very good against their opponent, pitched a shutout. And, of course, Glendale, we saw that offense. There were a few things. I'm curious to see how those Falcons really kind of respond against a ranked number 9 West Plains team. But other games in the Ozark Conference, Camdenton and Kickapoo, that is another big game here today. Both those teams pitching shutouts last week. Ozark at Republic. You also have Bolivar at Rolla in the conference. Excuse me, I'm kind of jumping around here. It's not really listed by conference. Of course, you also have Lebanon at Hillcrest. Lebanon, they shut out these Parkview Vikings last week, 56-0. They're going to look to make it a 2-0 start. Of course, you have Waynesville here at Parkview today. And then, of course, a district opponent, Branson, they are playing the number 1 team in all the land. They're playing Carthage here tonight. So we'll watch and see how the Pirates do against those Tigers of Carthage. But again, it is going to be Waynesville set to kick it away. 2 men back here for the Vikings of Parkview. Looks like it's going to be Chris Anderson and Ben Rice back to receive here for the Vikings. And of course, kicking away for Waynesville, that is going to be Brian Castor, who had to fill in last week as the kicker, taking over for the injured Mason Wright. But again, I'm Connor Harvard. I'll be on the play-by-play here this evening. Joining alongside me is my partner, Garrett Bowles. And thank you so much for tuning in here today for some Tiger football on KOZQ 102.3. The band's ready to go. The fans are ready to go. We've got a good-sized crowd on hand here for the first home game for Parkview here this season. Castro raising the arm. He gets the whistle. And we are officially underway as the kick sails away. It's going to be a short kick. Going to be fielded about the 25-yard line. Actually not going to find the 2 return men. Moving up to about the 37-yard line. That's where we're going to see the Vikings start their first drive here of the day. So again, a chance to see this Parkview Vikings offense featuring the quarterback, Anthony Nunda, wide receiver last season, all conference, honorable mention at the wide receiver position. Again, not the biggest guy on the field, 5'7". Very similar to Bishop Godwin, very similar to David Vernon. Of course, Vernon, Godwin have a couple inches on Nunda, but they're very similar in their explosiveness. Here's a handoff, Cam Harris on first down. He's going to dive forward for a couple yards, gets to about the 39-yard line, set up 2nd down and 8.
Yeah, and I'd be very interested to see what Doherty does here. You have a team that got shut out on offense last week. I wouldn't be too surprised if Doherty takes a couple of shots down the field, maybe get this offense up and energized and ready to go, even if the pass isn't completed.
Yeah, 56-0 last week against the Yellow Jackets of Lebanon. Here's a missed snap. That ball's going to be on the ground. Who's going to recover it? It looks like it's going to be taken by Parkview. So effectively going to be a loss of down here, and the Vikings find themselves in some trouble after the loss of 1. That'll go as a loss of 1 here for Cam Harris. 3rd down and 9.
That's something that you definitely don't want to see if you're a Parkview faithful. You've got to get this offense up and running as quick as possible. Hit the Waynesville Tigers in the mouth. A fumble there definitely sets them back, and it looks like they might be getting ready for a pass here.
Yeah, this is a passing formation. Actually, nope. How about we scratch that? It's going to be a quarterback draw here. Jumps out to the left-hand side. Gets about 2 or 3 yards. There is a flag on the play, however. We'll have to wait as we get our first flag of the day. Initial indication is against Parkview. It's going to be holding against the Vikings. So it would have been 4th down anyway. I'm curious to see if Coach Barkley declines the penalty here and forces the 4th down. And it looks like that may actually be the case. Whole new unit come out on the field for the Vikings. Yep, they're going to go ahead and give Newton to the 1 yard, but it's still going to be 4th down and 7 to go.
Yeah, whenever you can get the 4th down as quickly as possible, that's exactly what you want to do. You don't want to have any chance of an explosive play against you, and if Parkview got that down, would have attempted at least a big explosive play.
Anthony Nunda, also the punter for the Vikings. He receives the snap, going to punt it away. Very short punt, drifting off towards the right. Waynesville going to go ahead and clear out. Ball takes a nice friendly Vikings hop just past the 40-yard line. Waynesville going to get fairly decent field position. Go ahead and start their first drive. They'll start their own 39. So a good first defensive possession here for Waynesville, and that's one of the things we talked about, Garrett, in the pregame. You got to come out early. You can't let Parkview hang around. Now it's the offense's turn to really kind of, like I've said a couple times, set the tempo.
You have to set the tempo very quickly. I loved how quick the Waynesville defense reacted to that direct snap. It was a quarterback draw. He tried to go straight up the middle, cut left, did Nunda. Not able to make a big play because of this Waynesville defense being so versatile and so aggressive right up the middle. 2 backs in the backfield. David Vernon going to start at quarterback. Wing back off to the right-hand side. Vernon going to take the snap. It's a quarterback keeper. Trying to get around the end, but unfortunately there's just not going to be a whole lot of room to run. He's going to be stopped by the defensive line. 2nd down, and now it looks like he did get back to the original line of scrimmage. And that was just getting back to the line of scrimmage there was impressive. Good push up there by the Parkview Vikings right up front. That's going to be important as Waynesville likes to run it up the middle quite a bit.
Yeah, making the stop there. That was the outside linebacker, Jaden Knox, a junior on this Parkview defense. Actually stepping up to that defensive line. Stacking the defensive line is Parkview. They've got themselves a 6-man front. Waynesville doing some at the line shifting here. Again, Vernon, your quarterback. And now looks like there may have been a bit of a miscommunication. It looks like Coach Barkley, he's going to have to burn an early timeout.
Yeah, and that's something that we talked about before. You don't want to give these Parkview Vikings any sense of hope, and I think forcing them to take a timeout that early isn't going to kill the drive, isn't going to kill the game for you, but it's definitely not trending in the right direction for the Tigers. They'll definitely hope to get some yards back here on 2nd down.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and keep it right with you here through the timeout again as we already 2 minutes into this one. Waynesville coming out on defense. Very impressive. Of course, got a little bit of help there with the botched snap. But now they're going to have to come up with something here. The first play, not necessarily ideal, but you have Chase Thomas Plummer in the backfield, by the way. He is the direct back. Remember, we saw Aussie in that position last week. We saw Kelsey Jr. in that spot last week. So we're going to see a couple different players line up back there. Just because it is going to be Thomas Plummer back there first doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to see a few back there as well. So we're going to get back to the line here. Again, 2nd down and 10. Ball on the Waynesville 39-yard line. 9:54 left to go in this first quarter. Again, Vernon the quarterback, wing back to the right-hand side. Vernon again going to take the snap. It looks like the same play. This time he is going to get some positive yardage, and it's going to be a late flag after he gets about 8 on the play. So 2nd down and 2 would be the initial call, but we'll see where the flag comes in.
Yeah, and that, like you said, was basically the exact same play. They just kind of fixed their blocking assignments a little bit. That timeout might have been taken also to restructure the offensive line for the play that we saw before, where the timeout was actually taken, as well as a bit of a restructuring and reminder of the blocking assignments there.
So it's going to be blocking here called against Waynesville. That's going to negate the great carry. The gain of 8, and it's actually going to send them way back here as the holding call came at the line of scrimmage. So repeat 2nd down, but it's going to be 2nd down and quite a bit, all the way back to the 25-yard line. How about 2nd down, 24 to go?
It's definitely a tough blow, especially with the team that